It's working. All right, friends. So let's get right into it. Today, what we're doing, since I did not get a chance to go live after the games, we're just going to do it all right here, right now. We're going to do both games from yesterday. So for starters, hello to YouTube, hello to Facebook, and hello to Twitter. Thank you for joining us here today. What we're going to be doing is just talking about those games that happened yesterday. Let's see, we had the Houston Texans visiting the New England Patriots, and the Seattle Seahawks visiting the Atlanta Falcons, arguably the much more interesting game of the two. So let's get right into it with the excuse me, with the Patriots game and the Texans game. So for starters, this game was called at a -16 by Vegas, so there's a lot of questionable things going on here. Like, is this really a game? Why were why were the teams like this allowed to like the Houston Texans, that is, allowed to be into the playoffs at all, things like that. So there's a lot of people going back and forth on like what was the meaning of this game. However, it turned out to be a very good game. Well, unfortunately for Patriots fans, and the reason I say that is because a lot of what happened was the Houston Texans came out and they actually were ready to play. And so many people, so many players, it appeared, and so many fans as well appeared to be astonished by the fact that that was able to happen at all. So essentially what we're getting at here is it turned out to be a good game. Brock Osweiler decided that he wanted to play all of a sudden, which was a little bit crazy for some people. And also the defenses showed up. I mean, I believe it was definitely at least 2, maybe 3 picks that were picked up by the Houston Texans, which tied and maybe surpassed the amount that Tom Brady allowed in the season as a whole, which was nutty in itself. So there was that. The game, it started off, let's see, we started off with 3 and out on both sides, and then we got moving a little bit with some of the offense going on right there, back and forth. Osweiler made some good throws. He actually stepped up and like played the ball a little bit, which was cool too. Kind of exciting, if you ask me. So we had that, and then the turning point in the game came around, I'd say, halftime. Definitely halftime is when they went to the locker room. They were up 17-13. The Patriots were up 17-13, which in my mind as a Patriots fan is unacceptable. In my mind as a Vegas person is unacceptable. In my mind as a commentator is unacceptable. It's a team that you should have put your foot down on immediately and just stomped out from the get-go. The one thing that kind of ticked me off about the whole experience was throughout the entire game, commentators were making a point to say that the Houston Texans had the best defense, sorry, not offense, the best defense in the league. And the only stat they were showing was the fact that they didn't really let up any yards at all. They let up the fewest amount of yards per game throughout the entire regular season. And that kind of ticked me off because they lost so many games because they let up a fair amount of points to teams that really shouldn't have either. So the fact that the Patriots won doesn't surprise me at all. The fact that they struggled as much as they did surprise me, absolutely, especially in that first half. But then, obviously, in the second half, things turned around a bit. Scored yet another 17 points, really putting our foot on the pedal to the metal, so to speak, and moving forward with that. So, I know a lot of you watch this game, but I'm just going to point out some things here that I thought were very interesting as we went through. For starters, towards the very end of the game, I thought it was outrageous at the very end how the Houston Texans tried to fight a little bit. They started getting a little bit more scrappy as the game went on, which was fairly annoying in my book because if you're losing, I can understand. I can understand in hockey, for instance, going out there and starting a fight in order to make sure that you get your team up and ready to go. But that's not how it works in football, in my opinion. I mean, yeah, you can go out and fight and everything, but if you get ejected and you're a good player, for instance, earlier in the season, who was it? It was a tight end that I needed for my fantasy team, and he got ejected, and then they ended up losing the game because he got ejected. They needed him. I can see him. I just can't remember his name off the top of my head right now. but he had some shoulder problems. Oh, Jordan Reed. Jordan Reed got ejected for starting a fight to try and get his team back into it, and then, of course, the Washington Redskins never even ended up making it to the playoffs. Maybe not because of that game, but there was a lot of other stuff going on there, too, that happened that took them out, like losing in the Week 17, because that was Week 16, I believe, when he got ejected. So anyways, moving on, folks. Good game overall. I was fairly displeased with the first half effort by the Patriots. I was very pleased with the second half effort by the Patriots. However, that also came with a bunch of momentum swings, and it felt like they needed that momentum to actually play the game and like do well with it, which was also fairly upsetting in my opinion. Because this is not a team, like when you're playing the Houston Texans, that is not a team that you should need momentum to beat. Maybe a smidge on defense, but against Brock Osweiler and that offense, you shouldn't need that much momentum. And in addition to that, I do have to give some props to Brock as well. Apparently, like prior to the game, they were doing some interviews with him, and he was like, yeah, like I realized I sucked, and like the fans made sure to like tell me that too, and they were cheering when I got benched and the whole bit. But then as the game went on, in that interview, he was like, yeah, I just want to go out and like let it rip and like call it a day and have some good times with it. So he went out there and he actually stepped up and made a couple of like good big throws that were very, they were good. Like Will Fuller, for instance, I believe it was a 50, maybe a 60-yard pass, and it was on the money. Like he was absolutely on the money, and Will Fuller just let it fall between his arms in the breadbasket. Arguably one of the most difficult catches in the game to make, over your head and then like this. But still, like that could not have been set up in a more perfect way. I personally don't see any excuse for why he didn't catch it. But also, the Patriots fan in me is very glad that he didn't, because the Houston Texans scoring any more than 20 points, because that would have put them at 22, 23 with the extra point. Any more than 20 points, that would have been a disappointment. So, but anyhow, let's move on here. Before we get into that, don't forget, people, here we're talking on YouTube today. We're doing a little different change of scenery on YouTube. You can subscribe to us, No Quip Sports, where you get your hockey and your football information. Hopefully we're adding some more sports in the near future. Also, we're here on Facebook Live today, so thank you for joining us. And Twitter as well, I can't forget you all. Thank you all for joining us here today. You can follow us on Twitter at No Quip Sports. You can like the Facebook page, No Quip Sports. And also you can subscribe to us at No Quip Sports on YouTube as well. So, let's see. The Seattle Seahawks visiting the Atlanta Falcons. Fantastic game. Really, really great. I thought this game was going to be a lot closer for starters, and the reason for that, in the very first quarter, I'm pretty sure both teams managed to chew up about 7.5 minutes of clock each. They both chewed up the first quarter, and successfully with some big scores as well. So I thought it was going to be one of those games, but then it turned into a much faster version all of a sudden, with a lot of different types of lead changes as well. There's a lot of huge moments in this game that made the whole thing very exciting. This is exactly the type of game that the NFL needs. They've been talking a lot about ratings lately, and among other things as well. But more importantly, though, this team, the Seattle Seahawks, I was talking to my best friend a lot about this before the game actually started, and basically the consensus that we came to was that the Seattle Seahawks, because we are New England Patriot fans, the Seattle Seahawks always give us a lot of trouble. But the thing is, and especially in these most recent years, they've been having great dominant teams, things like that. But what happened is they've actually lost a lot of their good players, and the reason that that's very important is because this team is actually very different. Also missing Earl Thomas, I believe Chancellor was in there, I believe, but he didn't make an incredible amount of impact. So this team is very different. They also got off to an extremely slow start. They had an odd beginning of the season. They obviously had a very odd ending of the season where they couldn't really keep up with the Falcons. They tend to play up to teams. They tend to play down to teams. And today yesterday, not today, they didn't even manage to put together a game against a team that's just really good. And they tend to play really good against those good teams. It was just too much firepower for them. So let's see, some big moments that came across. So the first quarter was great. The second quarter was explosive, to say the very least, for the Atlanta Falcons. 19 total points for them in that quarter alone. And that came on, let's see, Tevin Coleman and Julio Jones, I believe, as well. Really, really fantastic. There's and also, actually, you know what I'm forgetting here is the 5-point play. Russell Wilson, actually, while they were on offense, they were on the 1 or the 2 yard line. They got pinned in there on a punt. And I was sitting there, I was like, there's no way they give up a safety, not in a game like this, and then what happens but they make a safety, and it was because of the offensive lineman, the right guard, I believe, actually. Instead of taking, so here's just for some context for you all, because I played a little bit of offensive line myself. In that situation, it doesn't matter if you're pass blocking, it doesn't matter if you're run blocking. On the 1 yard line, you must go forward in your block. This guy immediately took a jab step back to try and really give a good hard push at the defensive tackle on the interior side of that line. And what that resulted in was he actually stepped on Russell Wilson's right foot as he was trying to turn and hand the ball off to, I forget who their running back is right now, but actually I don't even remember who was in at that time because it wasn't the guy that I thought it was. And that turned into a safety, obviously, because Russell Wilson fell on his back. Atlanta Falcons touched him down, safety. And then I was sitting there, I was like, how perfect would it be if they actually managed to put together a touchdown there? Because that would have absolutely blown the doors off of it at that point. That would have been, let's see, they only ended up with a field goal on that, so they would have had 23 points in the second quarter, which would have made it 10-23. So it was really outrageous to me how easily they were able to slip up. The Falcons, not the Falcons, the Seahawks just didn't come ready to play at all. And that, and the other thing I found out in this game, I was kind of theorizing, because I haven't really been watching the Seattle Seahawks extraordinarily closely this year, because so many people talk about their offensive line all the time, and my theory was, maybe it's not the offensive line that's bad, it's that Russell Wilson makes them bad. And the reason I say that, or the reason I said that for a while, was because Russell Wilson is so mobile and so willing to change up where he's playing and on the whole bit, that it's hard as an offensive lineman to actually block for him, because you're never sure where he is. There's no actual plan for where he's supposed to be, and it draws a lot of holding penalties and things like that, things of those nature. So, what I came to find out last night, and it all kind of hit me on the safety and among a couple of other plays where the Atlanta defense, arguably not a great defense, was able to just spring loose and sack Wilson and make him move a lot. Especially at the end of the game, they made him move a lot on a big play. He threw up a floater, which turned into an interception, and I think, personally, that's where I think the game completely swung into the favor of the Falcons, because at that time it was, let's see, the score was 13-26, I believe, I want to say, when that interception happened. So the Seattle Seahawks actually had a fairly good shot at being able to play the game and finish it out and maybe even win at that point. But that interception is kind of what put their signed their death certificate, if you will. But then let's see what happened from there. Then I believe it was all about the Falcons running the ball. From that point on, Tevin Coleman and Devonta Freeman actually just completely took over and made everybody look outrageously dumb. First of all, Tevin Coleman, I love you and I hate you at the same time. And the reason I say that, Tevin, because, I do. I have some serious love, but you have been just ruining my fantasy season. Stealing so many points from Devonta Freeman. I was all on the Devonta Freeman train last year. I drafted him super late because nobody thought he was going to do anything, and it turned out to be a superstar. But yeah, no, Tevin Coleman had a heck of a game. He made a huge catch in the end zone for a touchdown. He also had a bunch of like gigantic gainers, which were also big. And then Devonta Freeman actually was kind of like the back end of the game. He was kind of the second half of the game plan, if you will. He made a huge catch off of a nice little off of a very tight coverage, and he turned that into a 53, 54-yard gain, and also had a huge cut and just broke the ankles of the linebacker at that time too. So it was really, that was a fun run to watch. And then they gave it to him in the end. They made sure he got rewarded with his touchdown, and that put the score at 36-20. And that's right about where the game wrapped up, because then Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks offense couldn't put anything together, had to punt away after the drive after their garbage time touchdown. And I believe there's another interception mixed in there, or something like that. The ball got turned over, people. That's all that really matters. And then Matt Ryan, he got his first down, and then he kneed the ball out, I believe, on their 2-yard line, because Devonta Freeman was trying to, or very, very close to springing another great touchdown. So, yeah, so that's kind of my take on the game. No Quip Football actually called the Atlanta Falcons and the New England Patriots to win. So far on Divisional Weekend, No Quip Football is 2 for 2, 100%, much better already than last week, the divisional round, which was 2 for 4. But anyways, folks, unless there are some things that you want to talk about, that you want to see right now, I'm just going to wrap this up, keep it short and sweet today at a nice, cool 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is. Yeah, so like I said, thank you all to the YouTube who are here with us today, to the Facebook who are here with us, and also Twitter as well. Got 3 devices going. It's kind of funny looking at like all these screens all around me. But anyways, folks, a nice little change of scenery for you. So don't forget to follow us on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. There we are. Follow us on Twitter at NoQuipSports. You can get information like this all the time. We we live tweet games for hockey and for football, as well as we put our YouTube videos on the Twitter, and also some Facebook stuff as well. And then on the Facebook, we go live for games. Hockey, football, we post some funny things that we see from like Bleacher Report and other nice little news sources like that. And for our YouTube, as always, we have our more serious videos typically. This is going to be a little change of pace here, as well as some clips from other live videos that we do. And we post these videos to the Facebook and the Twitter as well. So I hope you all have a fantastic day, and as always, go football. And now it's time for you to